If you are applying to dietetic internships, you are most likely going to apply through the Dietetic Internship Centralized Application Service, also known as DICAS. Almost every dietetic internship uses DICAS. And now DICAS is being opened up to programs that are not dietetic internships, like coordinated programs and future education model graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics. The most important thing for you to do to start with is to know which programs you want to apply to. Make sure that you meet their minimums for application, because guess what? If you apply to a program but you don't meet their minimum admissions requirements, you have just wasted your money. And then see if their program has anything special that is needed. For instance, the internship that I ran in Phoenix, it required supplemental information. So there were specific documents that had to be attached to that DICAS application that were very specific to that program and not required by any other program. Now, when you're applying to DICAS, in addition to knowing what the program requires, and if there's any special hoops to applying, you are going to need for yourself an unofficial copy of your transcripts. You need to know your grades and you need to know the courses that you took. You're going to need what is called a DPD course list, and you're going to get this from the DPD director at your university. And it simply lists which classes make up that didactic program in dietetics. You have to submit that DPD course list in your application. So you need it, but you also need it because within DICAS, you are going to list every DPD course, when you took it, and the grades you got. So you need your grades, but you also need that DPD course list to know, because you're not going to put your algebra class on there. You're only going to list courses that are designated as DPD courses. Now you're going to need to enter your work and volunteer experience. So go back to that Google Doc that we made a few lessons back and use that to help you fill in your work and volunteer experience into DICAS. One thing that I want to point out is that within DICAS, if you had an experience that was part of a course, say your class required you to do some sort of community service, that is counted as part of your GPA, part of your grades, and not as actual volunteer experience. So volunteer experience has to be things that were not part of a course, were not a requirement for a course. You are going to have to upload your resume. The same resume is going to go to every single program that you apply to. So if you're applying to programs that have different concentrations, perhaps one that's public health and one that's sports nutrition, I would try to keep your resume as generic as possible and not focus on your love of sports nutrition, because that's going to hinder you in getting into a public health program. You're also going to consider that with your references. You are going to fill in the names and email addresses of 3 recommenders. At least one needs to be a teacher that you've had. At least one should be a work supervisor. And your third one can be from any category. Do not use a family member, right? Even if your family member was your boss, was your work supervisor, don't include family. And don't include classmates, right? Friends. Now, your reference people are going to go to every program that you apply to within DICAS. So again, if you're applying to programs with different concentration areas, you should let your recommenders know this so that they don't talk, again, only about your love of sports nutrition if you're applying to programs that have a variety of concentration areas. If you are only applying to programs in one concentration, like you're only applying to clinically focused programs, then it's fine to talk about your love of clinical nutrition. Now, you are going to have to order your transcripts to be sent to DICAS. They have to have official transcripts mailed directly to DICAS. The nice thing is that for DICAS, you don't have to send official transcripts to every program because they get them through the system. However, if your program is through a university, you need to double check that you don't also have to send them official transcripts. You probably want to order your transcripts sooner rather than later. But if you order them before your fall semester grades post to your transcript, I recommend ordering them and marking the slot that says to wait for grades to post. And then the school won't send them out until they've processed grades, probably in January, but it will still get to DICAS before February 15th in most cases. And even if it gets to DICAS a little bit later, as long as your application is submitted before 11:59 p.m. Central Time, then it will be fine. Your transcripts will get processed eventually. All right, and then finally, you're going to write a personal statement. There are some specific questions that DICAS asks, and then your program may have their own set of questions. So again, it's important to look at the questions, the program-specific information, and make sure you're covering everything that they have asked for. You can and want to tweak, modify, edit your personal statement for each program, right? So like I said, they may ask for some specific extra information. And so you're going to have multiple versions of that personal statement because you can attach the personal statement individually for each program that you're applying to. Just be very careful as you're modifying that you take out anything that might be specific to another program. I can't tell you how many personal statements I read when I was running the program in Phoenix, where people were talking about how excited they were to apply to Arizona State University. And guess what? I was not Arizona State University. All right, so that's kind of my broad overview of applying through DICAS.